Hey guys, I'm Mark,
I'm Alen.
and welcome to another episode of The Next Man Up. Alen, good to see you again, my friend.
You too, Mark. You know what? I feel like we should add like beatboxing.
I like this music. You know, it just kind of gets me in the right vibe, the right. I can't say I'm a huge funk fan, but you know, it kind of gets the head bopping a bit, and
I'm on to it, guys. I'm on to this. I love it. It's good stuff. What's going on, man?
Oh, we're back for another conversation.
Yes, sir.
I think I probably say this every episode. I'm just enjoying this, having a lot of fun, and
because it's true.
Exciting to see where this is going and where it will go down the road.
Absolutely. Likewise.
And listeners, last time we said if you've got feedback for us, please let us know. If you missed that, or if you're just tuning in with this episode and want to give us a reaction, please do. You can email us at feedback@thenextmanup.com. And question, comment, suggestion. We'd love to hear how these episodes are coming across to you and challenging you to think more about this idea or the ideas that we're talking about. So, again, would love any feedback that you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Alen, I know that you and I have been talking about this for a while. This topic of initiation and fatherhood and how we do right by our boys, by assuming this responsibility that is on us as men. I wondered if you could just take a few minutes, and I'll contribute too, of course, but just talk about the reactions that you're hearing when you tell people about the next man up, or you start talking about initiation. I see how your eyes light up and how your body language changes as you get excited about this. I know you're passionate about it, but what kinds of reactions are you getting when you talk to people in your travels?
You know, it's funny, but that's kind of it. I think it is this idea of like someone turning the lights on in a house in the middle of the night. Like you just see, you know, and from, you know, the guys that I've talked with, especially those who are fathers themselves or in some way are mentoring a young boy, like they automatically go, oh yeah, oh man, I thought about that. Like, wow, like, yeah, I love what you guys are doing. Love to be a part, like, you know. And so it's not like I haven't come across anybody yet. It's like, oh yeah, that's stupid. That's dumb. I don't even know why I even try to do that. This world doesn't need that.
Yeah,
it's completely the opposite. From the emotional, like, I wish like someone would have did that for me kind of feel, or, you know, like, oh man, this would be awesome for my kids, or whatever, to to intellectual conversations, you know, where people have just dug in. They've asked me 25 million questions, and 24,999,999 of them I don't know how to answer. Right. But one of them I do know. Like, you know, it's really cool. It starts this really cool conversations. So I for me personally, it's been more of folks just being really excited and they relate to wanting to conversate about this. Yeah. Wanting to talk about this because it's something, again, like we said, like several episodes back, it's something that's not talked about, but I think everybody creeps around and wants to jump into.
You know, my experience has been similar to that, but there's a precursor even to that, which is, what are you talking about? You know, it's sort of like we're fumbling around in the dark together. Yeah. I haven't flipped on the switch yet, and you know, using your analogy, they just don't understand what this idea of a rite of passage is or initiation. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about how we've lost it in our culture. And I think because we don't have it prominent in our culture, because we don't talk about it in families, in schools, in churches, and communities, because we don't have that, people are like, what is that? What are you talking about? Yeah. And then when I get a chance to explain it and start tapping into the emotion, both mine and theirs, that's when the light goes on
Yeah.
and they're just flooded with, oh, wow, wow.
Right. This is I just think, we just there's just certain words or things that when you say it automatically triggers a response or thought. And
Sure,
it's like,
yeah.
It's like, so what are you doing? I'm all about the rite of passage, and it's like, wow, that sounds cultish. Like, I'm gonna stay clear of you.
Don't they do that in Africa somewhere?
You know what I mean? This doesn't sound right. Like, but like you said, you unpack it, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I will gladly jump into that. That sounds great.
One of the questions I love to ask other men when we're talking about this, some of these are men that I've known for a while. Some of them are just people that I've recently met, and through the course of conversation, the next man up comes up. I always like to say this: what would it have been like to hear your dad say to you, "So and so, fill it in your name, you are a man"? And I tell you what, we talk about this stereotype of manhood, masculinity, manliness being non-emotional and very stoic and controlled and all of that.
Yeah.
And I haven't had anybody break down in tears, don't get me wrong, but I can see
it.
It's like this wave of emotion just washes over these men when I ask that question, and it's like it grips them.
Yeah.
Because whatever their story, I've yet to come across somebody who said, I know what that feels like because my dad did that for me. I don't know their stories.
No.
Dad could have been around. Dad could have been absent, anywhere in between. But every time I ask that question, I can see their responses. They just fill with emotion, like, wow, what would that have been like?
Yeah.
What a difference that would have made in my own life.
Huge. And I mean, but folks will still say it in some way, shape, or form, too. Like I think you asked me that question, and for me, I would have broke down. Like,
yeah,
I would have cried, filled with joy and happiness of feeling complete and content, feeling at peace. Like, finally, like my dad recognizes me growing up and becoming like a man. This is awesome. This solidifies something in my life. Oh yeah, I would have cried.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, that, like I said, nobody's broken down outwardly in tears.
No, that's not for every man. Like, I'm not saying that's for every guy, but I know me personally, because I've lived with myself for all these years. I know I would have cried.
Because it's got such an emotional appeal for you and your story, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to hear, listeners, if you want to hear Alan's story, go back to episode number 2. But because you did not have an active biological father in your life, when I ask you that question, it's like, oh my gosh, right? It just brings up so many emotions. Mm-hmm. Even for me, my story, it's captured in episode 3. I had almost every advantage, every head start that a young boy could have. And I still got into my mid to late 20s, and I'm wondering, when did I cross that threshold into manhood? Yeah. Because nobody, as good as my dad was, nobody ever told me, you're there.
Yeah.
And here is why you are there. It's not the accomplishments and the accumulations and your appearance. It's because of these other more inner qualities. I had all those inner qualities, but no one gave me that blessing.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And like I said, regardless, almost to a person, I get this reaction of leaning in to this idea because these men recognize the power that would have given them in positive influence back in, when they were 18, 20, whatever.
Yeah, man. Been a huge milestone in life.
I've had a couple interesting examples recently to come to mind, just people that I have met for the very first time. One of them, I was having coffee with him, and we got connected through somebody else because of his interest in fathers and marriages, and because of my interest here with the Next Man Up. We got connected and we were talking. And so he's like, well, tell me what you're doing. Tell me what this Next Man Up is. And so I gave him kind of a brief version. I didn't go into too many details, but I asked that question as part of the process, and I got done. And no sooner had I stopped talking, he's like, I want in. I want to participate. I want to be part of this. That's just an example of what we're finding out there. And we can only assume without engagement from our listeners, but I got to believe that there are lots of listeners out there that are feeling the same way.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
boy, this is calling to me, to my inner manhood in a way that nothing else has ever before.
Yeah, I even like that phrase, is calling to me. Like, I truly believe there's this inner thing tugging at us, like saying, you need to be called into this, or the other way around. You need to call your son into this. Like, it's your responsibility to call your son into this, and it's big. And I think it's easy sometimes to try to like ignore that, but man, dude, you gotta pay attention to that. And as I conversate, as you conversate, we're noticing how many other guys are really recognizing that as well.
Yeah.
And they're automatically, their ears perk up. You know what I mean? Their
Right.
eyes wide open, and they take that gas like, yes, this is it.
Yeah.
This is what I've been looking for. And
Tapped into something inside that they can that really resonates with them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I had an opportunity just the other day to meet Norm Wakefield. He's a very prolific author, very successful speaker around manhood and identity. And I had opportunity just to listen to one of his talks and talk with him a little bit, just a little bit, because he didn't have a whole lot of time, about the next man up and what we're trying to do here and get it started. And he's like, Mark, there are not enough of us out there. The need is so great that there can't be enough. And so, that was just an encouragement for me. He doesn't really know my story. We didn't have that opportunity. But just to hear him, who's been out there working with fathers and husbands and men for a number of years, to say the need is great. Yeah. It just energizes me and encourages me in what we're doing here to keep going.
Absolutely, man. I feel encouraged hearing him say that through you. That's encouraged. Like, oh wow, yeah, there is a great need. It's bigger than I thought. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah. How can we do our part?
Yeah, absolutely. Man, those are great stories.
Have you ever come across the person that's, once they get over that initial excitement of, wow, that could be really cool, you see their body language change a little bit, and then they become hesitant, maybe intimidated or nervous, or they're like, oh, well, that would have been great for me, but I don't know that I'm up for the challenge. I'm not good enough. I'm intimidated by. Have you come across that scenario yet?
Yeah, man. Like, honestly, personally, like that's something I've had to combat, like how, like, this great idea is like the thought is awesome. The idea is awesome. But then when you take a look at the daunting task of, like, initiating your son into being a man, that's scary, man, on a whole bunch of different levels. But one level is you feel inadequate. You feel like, I don't know what the smack I am doing here right now.
Yeah.
Like, and honestly, because no one did it for me. Like, it's, to me, it could sound like it could be just, some pie in the sky kind of deal, or that's great for someone else, or it's great for a movie. But
right? Somebody else.
But real life for me right now, I just can't see myself doing it. I feel inadequate. I have a lot of fears. What if I mess up? And so I've had conversation with guys like that. But here's the thing. There is no instructional manual for this stuff.
Right.
There isn't. And honestly, probably the reason why is because it's a messy deal.
Yeah.
And we're going to mess up. You're right. I'm right when I think about myself. I don't have it all. Like, I don't have all the tools like needed to do this, but that doesn't mean that we can't start. It doesn't mean that we can't get help. It doesn't mean that we can't draw people alongside of us as we raise our boys to men. Yeah, all those things are real. And I think, as I talk with folks and I say something like that, it opens this door of a sense of, yeah, you're right, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to feel inadequate because I'm not the only one. It's okay to have fears because everyone has fears. It's okay to think that I'm gonna fail, like in areas. Yeah, we're all gonna fail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we still can do this. We still can do this. Why? Because like it's our sons.
Right.
We have to.
Right.
We have to. And the daunting task of it all, like being too big for our shoulders. I said it in the last episode, but we're not meant to do this alone. So we do need other people. But once we start figuring that out and we start seeing that, it's really easy to like breathe in the midst of that scary, afraid kind of feeling, or the feeling of being inadequate. But those have been my conversations and thoughts with people.
Yeah, I've had the same encounters, like people get excited about the idea, then they start thinking about the responsibility that it takes to do this, and begin to settle back into a more passive mindset, a more passive approach. And my when I look across the landscape of fathering today, there's a lot of passivity out there. Yeah. There just is. And I think some of it is because we as fathers feel inadequate. We weren't shown the way. And this goes beyond just initiation, but we weren't shown the way to do this thing by our own fathers for whatever reason. And we also we take on this idea that boys will be boys. I figured it out. Yeah. My son will figure it out.
He'll figure it out.
and that's sort of true. They will figure out something, right? We all figure out something. But to take a more passive approach is to yield that influence that you have over your son to somebody else.
Yeah.
And it may not be the influence that you want to have. It may be contradictory to the influence that you can have for your son. But I wish, and I recognize it even looking back in my own life, just times, scenarios, circumstances where I was probably too passive. I was unavailable, or I didn't engage. Maybe that's a better way to say it. I just missed the opportunity to engage. And I think a lot of what we're talking about here starts just simply with engagement. And willing as a father to lean forward into your sons purposefully, rather than saying they'll figure it out and they'll be better off for it because they got to wrestle and struggle and figure it out on their own. And that's true, but that doesn't mean that they'll be better off because you've abdicated your responsibility to help them through this.
And plus, we're playing chance with our kids, our flesh and blood's life. It's not just $1. It's not just
right. That's right.
It's not your car. It's not your house. Some material thing that you could possibly get back or rebuild back. This is our sons' lives. We can't play chance.
Yeah.
We can't just expect it to happen. It's not gonna. Most oftentimes, well, let me take that back. Something's gonna happen, like you just
something
will
happen.
Something will happen, but it might not. It probably might not be what we want to happen. And that's playing chance. And so the passivity of it all, it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
And I've seen it too. With you've talked about it. I've seen it. There's moments where I look back and I go, wow, I really could have probably jumped into that with my son, but I didn't. Like, wow. It's easy to beat yourself up, but man, if we would just, like you said, if we would just continue to take the steps to engage, how much of a change we'd see,
one of the books that I like. It's not my favorite, but I would recommend it to people if they're looking for resources to just think about initiation, rite of passage. It actually came, I don't know if it was first or it followed the movie Courageous, but it's associated with that movie. For those that have seen it. Anyway, the book is called Rite of Passage. It's written by Jim McBride, and there's a quote in there that I like. He says, "Too often, our young people simply drift into adulthood with no sense of commission or blessing from their society or their families." And I think we see that.
Yeah.
We see that all around. It's because because in at least in part, a significant part, because of a father passivity. Kids just, or in this context, boys just wander into, wake up one day and they're 40-some years old and like, I guess I'm a man. I guess. What a missed opportunity,
Yeah.
And so let me, I guess, encourage the fathers that are out there that are excited about this initiation, that get it emotionally, passionately in their soul, what it would have meant for them, to not miss the opportunity to begin to take steps in this direction for your son. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. The influence that you have is so strong, so powerful. And to be able to focus it in toward this blessing of manhood, thinking about what it would have been like for you, just offer that to your son.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be extravagant. I mean, it's really, it's presence.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's presence.
And presence and purpose.
Yeah, purpose. Offer what you have.
Right. That's right. It's enough.
Yeah, it's enough. It's totally enough. And I'm finding it out myself. I locked myself away in my bedroom when I found out I was having my first child.
Yeah.
It was scary. I mean, like I said, there's no manual for this stuff. And it was like, how am I going to do this? I don't know how to do this. Look, you got enough. And so offer it.
Yeah.
Offer it all the way.
Yeah.
And don't sleep on your son.
Well, I hope for our listeners out there that as we've been talking about this, that our encounters with others have resonated with those that are listening, because I really think we have an opportunity to rediscover something that will be pivotal for the next generation of boys. The ship has sailed for us, for all intents and purposes. The ship has sailed for us, middle-aged fathers, whatever, but not for our boys.
No.
Man, there's a whole new generation of boys who will become men, and the opportunity we have to guide that is phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Totally agree, Mark.
Well, great conversation.
Fun stuff, man.
Thanks once again. Again, listeners, if you want to hit us up with some feedback, the email's in the outro, and we'd love it. And until next time, we will see you guys later.
All right.
Hey, listeners, thanks for journeying with us on this Next Man Up podcast. We would love to hear from you. Maybe you have a question or an idea, perhaps a topic for us to consider. If that's you and you want to reach out to us, you can get us at feedback@thenextmanup.com. That's feedback@thenextmanup.com. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we'll see you later.